if the placebo.
Today's Wednesday.
Today is Wednesday. Oh, wait. I got to do the thing.
Thing.
Do the thing
Come on.
everybody hates. Today is Wednesday, the 29th of May.
29, baby.
And today we have joining us the inimitable
I'm here.
and also the other.
Howdy. What camera are we looking at? That one?
Yeah,
Oh, from that one.
It's good for them. Good.
Startalk Acupuncture. This is
1 or 2,000 emails.
That Meteor video that we got to play last
Mm-hmm. Good. Yeah, we're good. I'm good.
Yeah.
You
Busy.
know, wonderful spring. The weather's getting really nice. Not thinking about the election that's going to happen in November at all.
There's an election happening soon in Iceland.
Yes, I'm not worried about that election though.
Sure. Well, are we gonna go to Iceland?
At some point, I'd like to go to Iceland.
That would be a thing. Let's see. Are we live on everywhere? I think we are. We're in the Discord as well. Everyone can see us there and all of that. Okay, so why don't we do as a precursor? We'll do that Meteor video. That we
Sure.
got.
Let's get to it.
So, we'll table the Startalk thing for just a second. Where is that? I have a few funny videos, and that none of these are them. Actually, you know what? While we're on it, why don't we look at this thing for a second? I don't
Okay.
know if this appeals to you as much as several million people that this guy appeals to.
Mhm.
Man news, is that what that says?
Okay, so that's a marshmallow.
Is dedicated
With some food coloring.
to just
Drew, finish what it says on the prompter.
So what? Who cares? What's happening?
Chemically
roasting marshmallows. I'm back.
Okay.
I'm back. Roasting marshmallows and then showing you the
Oh, come on.
Wait, this guy got 2 million views for marshmallows being
aftermath.
pulled off a
This one looked
stick.
like a strawberry style.
Yo, could have been Cheeto flavored. Don't rule that out.
Pulling off this crusty goodness purple action.
I guess this
What a
one's
strange
great.
choice.
I mean, I'd give it a shot.
I guess.
Why?
He messed up on this one.
It's just videos that he thinks men like to watch. Is that?
That is another level of
Cancer, right? Yeah, you said that.
he's reporting on
Didn't eat it.
But then wouldn't he get
news
cancer?
that men like to watch.
Yeah, you.
But this other creator who just toasts marshmallows in different colors gets that high level of views on his. So
I just simply don't understand anymore. I don't get it.
Oh wait, you can't hear my audio. Now you
Now I
can
can
hear
hear
my
you,
audio.
but I don't get it. I don't
Sorry.
understand. Okay, so people like to see marshmallows that have food coloring on them, have the skins ripped off. Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, it's so important to human society. I mean, it's intriguing, it's enlightening, it's enriching because it makes me feel better.
Right.
You know, when I look at other marshmallows like this, I get envious.
Uh-huh.
You know, there's like less life lessons all built into this video.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was hoping you would feel. So
Okay.
great. Okay, that's it.
All right. So my love for the internet just went down by one click.
Just one click. That's it.
Well, it wasn't.
That's
It
pretty
wasn't
good.
offensive. It
wasn't
was
that
just
high.
stupid. You
Okay,
know?
it's just well.
But who's the idiot here? Because I
That's-
never would have
there's
thought
the
of that.
point. Yes, exactly.
You know?
Exactly. All right, let's get to the actual.
Okay, let's do the real stuff.
Nada a ver, meu Deus.
So this was over Spain and Portugal. That giant meteor. That's pretty cool. Cool
Yeah.
happenstance that she was pointing. I mean, presumably. Well, I don't know. Did they know that there were star showers or whatever you call it, meteor showers?
showers.
In at that time, or did you just happen to have the camera pointed at the?
Well, it
perfect spot?
starts after it would have been visible. Did they orient it really quickly?
Possibly.
Well, what's the situation here? I get it's a meteor, but
Just I guess the color and the happenstance of it. I mean, it seems like it.
Nada a ver, meu
I guess
Deus.
could you see it from really far away before?
I'm imagining
setting
you
it?
could.
I mean, it's
That's
pretty,
a nice video.
Yeah, it's pretty convenient and pretty cool.
But what that shows you is the effect that everybody basically having a video camera in their pocket has. Real phenomena like meteors, we get these kind of individually rare but collectively inevitable videos.
Right.
Right. So like if
So we would have
alien-
pictures of
if alien spacecraft were
Right.
buzzing around, we would be seeing them too.
And that's pretty clear video. Why is it
Yeah.
always blurry?
Right.
Like so.
Yeah.
There are clear video of known phenomena
Mm.
and blurry video of unknown phenomena.
Go and figure.
I think the blurriness is the phenomenon. That's why.
Yeah. Yep.
And you know what's funny? My reaction would have been a lot more emotionally charged than theirs. You know, she just smiles. I would have been like, "Oh my god!" You know, because that. You know, how
Have you
often?
ever seen a meteor like that?
No,
I did a couple times.
nothing that big. That was huge.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
pretty big one. And the
That was
color
big.
is pretty exciting.
I mean, you know, in the world that we live in, it's like, okay, so how many people thought that was an alien spacecraft? You know,
Well, who knows? That's a good point.
Because things don't fall out of the sky.
Never.
okay.
Never. No big rocks.
All right, true or
fall out
false?
of
In
the
the
sky.
1800s, scientists thought that meteors were a myth.
True.
That's interesting. How could they? Oh, just because it's so rare.
Yeah, they thought that
happenstance
anecdotal
I guess,
reports
yeah.
of people saying that this big rock fell out of the sky. They thought it was ridiculous.
Yeah, because they don't. Yeah, they
Because
didn't.
they didn't have a cosmology yet that included that there's a bunch of rocks flying around out there.
Oh, right.
But then they evidence
They wisened up.
changed their
Slowly
mind.
over time,
They're like,
Yep.
science pushed the information to
Because
more and
there
more
actually
accuracy.
were rocks falling out of the sky and hitting the ground that they could find and examine and study.
Yeah.
Again,
coincidence.
different from, say, alien spacecraft, which do not exist.
Never see.
Yeah.
But area was it Area 41,
51.
Area 51.
51.
41's toilets.
Yeah, you're
They
right.
just specialize in
I mean, you
toilets.
saying that that's not true?
What about it is true. So Area 51 exists. It is a
There you
secret
go.
military
you heard
base.
it,
Ah.
Ian. He said it. He said it.
It
okay.
does. There's not. That's not
I don't know. if
So how
that's what
many
he meant.
alien bodies are there, Steve?
zero. It was
According
my
to who?
I estimate that there is grand total of 0 alien bodies at Area 51. No,
Oh,
it's
God.
a secret military airplane testing
Yeah.
facility, right? Because of course we have them, right? And there's security around them. They don't
That's our
want
main
people
thing.
taking pictures of their secret spy ships or whatever.
Yep.
And people parlay that into, well, they must have aliens there because there's a secret.
Yeah.
Classic. Speaking, well, we could get to. Should we go to the flat Earth or should we jump to the main
We
shebang?
could do the flat
Yeah,
Earth.
flat
That's a
Earth.
good-
Let's just watch this guy for a little bit, just because he's got some interesting.
Is this
things
guy
to
for real, do
say.
you think?
He seems very animated,
Yeah.
so that kind of makes me think he's for real. That doesn't necessarily mean, obviously you can play it up
Yes.
for TikTok, especially.
Is the Earth
But he just, he jumps on the and he's paying for also. Let me say,
Neo,
what did I
are
just
you
open?
awake yet?
Oh, for funk's
Do you
sake!
still not believe?
Hold on, stop.
You're playing
That's
the wrong
another.
video.
Yeah, that's another ridiculous one. Okay. Yeah, he pays for CapCut Pro, so he's
He's
making
got all the bells and
at
whistles.
least $6 a month. I think it is. So that's cool.
All right, let's check it out.
Let's check it out. Here we go.
is the Earth flat or round? It is 100% without a doubt flat. It's flat. It don't matter what people say. There's no such thing as gravity. It's magnetism, electromagnetism. That's what your heart center is. You have a toroidal field.
What is he holding in his hands, by the way? Do
can't
you
tell
notice
yet.
that? Like, let's look at. I think he's also like on a treadmill. But anyway, let's go.
Magnetism can be proven. Gravity cannot be proven. Gravity is still considered a theory, just like the Earth's core is considered a theory. The Earth being flat is I can see it with my own.
Is the Earth's core a theory?
It gets so boring after a while, right? It's like, okay, do we have to explain what a scientific theory is again? Like, it's as if he's had access to the incredible internet, which is gives you all the informations, right? I have wonderful words. I have the best words, right? I mean, the guy could look up anything, could literally take classes for free at super expensive colleges if he does it online. And he's saying that
There's no gravity.
his heart has a toroidal field. There's no gravity, and it's a theory. God damn those scientists for using that word. We should change the goddamn word.
Yeah.
Right?
What?
Whatever.
Nah, it's nothing. First of all, it won't solve anything.
No
Just
easiness.
introduce more confusion. No, I mean, listen. The fact that gravity exists is pretty well established. Obviously, there are different theories of like what the mechanism of gravity is. That's where general relativity comes in.
Yeah, but for regular,
But
normal
that
people,
gravity exists, that there is an acceleration due to gravity, and gravity is produced by mass, has been demonstrated beyond any doubt. It is not electromagnetism. You know what electromagnetism is? It's fucking electromagnetism with its completely own set of properties and behaviors and fields, and that we can also document. It is not gravity,
and you're angry about this.
Well, just
Yeah, it's frustrating. Let's see how many views this guy get. Let's look at this.
11,000 likes.
All right, you got
So that's
11,000
12,000
likes.
close to- so some order of number.
So, just on the surface here, right? So we've got a relatively young guy. Could be in his teenager, maybe
Probably early 20s.
young 20s.
I don't know.
Who apparently does not have a higher education, just by the way he's talking. Now, we're supposed to believe this guy over thousands and thousands of scientists throughout, the last how many hundred years? A couple hundred years, Steve?
At least.
Right?
I mean,
Where we've been testing gravity, and, then we have geniuses like Einstein, who, basically, came up with a theory of relativity that, at least can mathematically show that these things exist.
I mean,
right?
it's one of the most confirmed theories in science.
Essentially.
At this point in time.
But this teenager.
Well, he's probably 20 or 30, honestly. I don't know,
Let's
who
hear
knows?
more. But that's
Well, I don't think I don't think this guy's dealing with the full deck.
Let's go. Let's keep watching.
He's got some kind of
He,
thought disorder.
yeah, he
going
goes all over. So let's see.
on. Like, it really goes off the cliff.
Yeah, so
you
that's
know?
an interesting tactic.
My own eyes, there's no fucking curvature. I go on the top of a mountain, I can look all the way that way, and I can scan the whole horizon and see that it is horizontal. Horizon. Horizontal. Fucking, it's not rocket surgery. They've made it so complicated and stupid.
I love rocket surgery.
Rocket
That's
surgery.
That's a classic line. I love that.
I am going to use that for the rest of my
it's
life.
a good one. Rocket
It's
surgery.
not rocket surgery, sir.
Sir. I do like the thing that it seems like a lot of people do is the horizontal, like they're reading into words more than
That's right,
need
because
to.
they're
Right,
you see
'cause
they're
words
trying to
have an etymology.
Right.
they're trying to deceive us, Ian. You see,
Yes.
they're hiding the answers right in front of our eyes.
Did it. And they were sneaky enough to leave it in some of the words.
Because something that we perceive as flat, which is the horizon, and the word horizontal have a similarity, there is shit going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, Steve. We don't get it. All right, keep going.
All right, here we go.
It's a projection. We don't know where it ends. I don't know if it does. I know it's a projection, but at the same time it could end. Who knows?
What's a projection?
What does that mean? Is he projecting? Or
The
what
horizon's a projection?
Yeah, perhaps he means the horizon is a projection that. But what does that even mean?
I don't know.
That doesn't.
Yeah, I was
seem
worried
to,
about. I was wondering about
He
that
doesn't
too.
know himself.
It's kind of hard to. That's probably deep in the Reddit pill.
Why they control the weather climate? Because that's our energy source. Listen, the sun.
Oh, so he jumped to why do they control the weather? So
That's
that's
our
an
energy
interesting.
source.
Right.
Wait, he said that? I didn't hear that.
Yeah, it's quick. I mean, it's a cut, so he's obviously probably live, just pontificating.
Why they control the weather climate? Because that's our energy source. Listen, the sun regulates your outer energy. That's why men's cycles
we
follow
go.
the sun.
Huh?
Women's cycles follow the moon, which is the feminine energy. There's 0 and 1. That's in the Sumerian text, the most ancient text that exists. At the beginning, there was zeros and ones. And they say what in the Bible? At the beginning, there was Adam and Eve. But the truth is, there was
This is
zeros
like
and ones.
flight of ideas now. This is just.
It's just wild.
It's pretty pathetic.
It's like Terrence Howard. Like we were
It's
watching
Terrence
last
Howard
night.
level.
Yeah, it's just.
But what's funny is how he states it like, come on, guys. I mean, there were zeros and ones. I mean, it's like as if we're supposed to be like, oh yeah, because it was written in the most ancient document, we should believe it. Here's a good rule of thumb. The older the document, the less you should believe it. What do you think
Right.
about that, Steve? Good rule of thumb?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I mean, Jay, these superstitious sheep herders from 3,000 years ago wrote down ones and zeros. I mean, what do you not understand about that?
I don't know. I mean, there
all
must
the
be
secrets of the universe can be derived from that
right
simple
there, right
fact.
in that document. Because they knew. Because what happens is, this is odd. What happens with humanity is that they knew everything in the very beginning. They knew everything. They had all the answers to the entire puzzle of reality. And then as the generations have gone by, we've lost touch with that information, and we're actually dumber than the people that lived 3,000 years ago. Now, that could be the reality that you want to live in, or we could believe in modern science and in the scientific process and believe that our understanding increases as time goes on. And you know what's weird about people that lived thousands of years ago, Ian?
What?
They didn't have cell phones.
Oh,
They didn't have jet airplanes.
are you sure?
They didn't have medicine, like, maybe they had things that they called medicine back then, but they didn't have anything close to modern medicine.
But
they
how
didn't-
did they build big triangles in the sand?
They didn't have clean running water.
Oh, right. That's true.
It's weird. They had all the answers. They knew it. They had the books and whatever, right? They had the ones and zeros, but yet they were, they didn't have enough food to eat. A lot of them died. They died from lack of dentistry. It just doesn't make sense. But this guy's right. Keep
They
going.
died because their clothes was not tightly woven enough.
Yeah. All right. So now he's talking about the moon and the
There's
sun.
more. Just a little also history of the zeros.
Yes.
He is kind of correct that Sumerian culture had a concept of nothing. It wasn't a zero specifically. It was a slanted double wedge inserted to represent absence of a number. But the first zero was not actually like codified, written down until 3 BC, whereas the Sumerian texts are from like 3200 BC. So a little maybe disconnect of the ones and zeros specifically.
Okay.
But anyway. All right, here we go.
Masculine and feminine. The sun and the moon. I don't know if it was the sun and the moon because now I'm fucking reading shit that's saying that the moon was not here back in the 1400s. This is what got me banned on TikTok the first time.
I love that why TikTok bans you also for that. It's like,
All right. So we did get a.
he's so stupid.
We got a
Please.
clue drop. We got
You're
a clue
too
drop.
stupid for TikTok.
He-
That's the low
He
bar.
believes
That's a really low bar.
everything that he reads. This is the core of the problem here. He read that there
Only
was,
if it's weird and bizarre
Yeah.
against what
Exactly.
most normal people believe,
Yeah,
Exactly.
it seems
Yeah.
like.
which is the thought disorder.
Is that like
Yeah.
the secret knowledge thing or whatever you, I don't know what you could even call it.
Yeah, I mean,
At
you
that
know,
point.
this guy doesn't seem certifiable to me, Steve. He doesn't seem like he's got parts on order. It just seems like he's utterly misinformed.
At some point it's hard to tell the difference between those two things.
Yeah,
But-
it's true. Look, I'm not a
and there's
professional.
there's a spectrum. There's a continuum.
Yeah.
He's somewhere on that continuum.
I think this is what you call being full of shit.
well, that's
what I
the
think
end
is-
result.
Yeah.
Or
that's-
doing it for 12,000 likes.
Yeah,
You know what I
let's
mean?
get the
Like,
likes,
Yeah.
yeah.
it's one of those.
Yeah.
right. It's
Anyway.
it's either you're full of shit, or it's like you have a pathological indifference to whether something is true or not, as long as it drives clicks, or some combination of that with grossly misinformed, and he's got parts on order to boot. It's like all those things are at play, and it would take some time to disentangle them in terms of what particular brew mix of all those things this guy
Yeah.
is dealing with. But those are all of the elements.
Yeah.
Let's continue
All right,
here.
let's keep going.
Is it
20,
wrong?
30
Is it
seconds
right?
more.
I don't fucking know. That's just the information that I come across. But my point being, the sun governs your energy, and when the sun goes far away and
does
the
that do
moon
that on
is
a flat
above
Earth?
you, then the energy inverts itself. That's why your creative mind is when the moon is above you. That's why people are night owls. That's the best time to create. That's another reason why women follow the moon cycle. Their period follows the moon cycle.
No, it
That's
doesn't.
why we live in Egyptian mythology, because we have Horus, which is the sun, and we have the moon. Horus, moon, hormones. The horoscope. Horizon. It's
He
all
did it again. At that point, I'm like, he's playing into it, right? Like, he's gotta be.
What
It's,
about
like, so ridiculous?
what about the word horrible or
Yeah.
horrific?
I mean, that's the thing. If this is all just a character he's playing, it's brilliant.
Yeah. It's like spot on.
Yeah,
I mean,
But it's
wouldn't
too
say-
spot on.
I wouldn't say it's,
It's not
brilliant
funny.
because I'm not entertained. You
Right.
know, it's just to me,
but it's mesmerizing to
Yeah.
a
That's
certain
true.
extent.
sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
maybe
know.
brilliant's going too far, but you know what I mean. It's
I
like,
do. Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying.
It's deep into the whatever. What do the actors do when the method acting?
method. Yeah, it's deep into
Yeah.
the method.
This is the new reality, people. You know, we're not even sure if people are lying about the crazy things that they say.
Well, it's like the level of stupidity is beyond satire.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. It's
Bill has a good one, or it's horse.
horseshit.
That's awesome.
Oh God.
Let's see if there's anything at the end.
the Horus's zone.
Yeah.
It's bro, it's hang.
Here you got me. Whoa,
Whoa, whoa.
whoa, whoa. That's perfect.
The whistle goes woo.
All right, so yeah, it's a Poe. Yeah, that's what I know. That's
Could be.
the hard part.
That's
It's
the
hard to
thing.
know.
His YouTube channel name is Everything is Divine.
Divine E. That's
100
probably because he got banned and he was divine, and now he's Divine E. you know what I
Divine,
mean?
yeah.
Which is funny that there isn't 100% the truth.
Mhm.
Tartaria, it's real. So I don't know. You know what I mean?
Should we start posting on these videos and see if
Like, commenting on them?
Yeah.
We could.
Let's do it live right now. Let's write
Okay.
something to this guy.
What do you
Let's
wanna
say, hi.
Hi. Okay.
You got to be friendly.
Like it's an email.
yeah. Hi.
Okay.
Are you Question mark.
Hi. How are you? How? Wait.
Or wait. Let's do. Wait. I have an idea.
Do not engage.
Wait, no. Follow me on this one. Let's go one level crazier than what he
That's
shows
true.
in the
Out
video.
crazy the crazy.
Let's out crazy him and see what he's responds. Let's make something up completely right now in this.
No, but then we're just adding to.
Nah,
The
who
new-
cares?
the
Only
new
11,000
thing.
people. Come on.
Why increase
There's no
engagement?
butterfly effect here. Let's just see. Let's see.
I don't like putting that kind of stuff out there. In the
Yeah.
internet.
All right,
we
log
don't
in
wanna
as
do
me.
it. Log in as me. Okay, we'll do that later. Jay.
We could, if the only engagement I would do is ask them the question you'd never want to answer is like, are you for real or is this all just
Yeah.
a character you're
Yeah.
playing?
Yeah,
That's
that
a good
is one of those
question.
things.
Just
I don't
right.
know.
Are you legit, man?
You
Question mark.
legit, man. I think we need a quorum of people on the SGU to decide whether or not we post it, right?
All right, whatever.
All right,
All right, we'll move on to the next
We'll
one.
save it. We'll save it. All right, let's.
It could have been a fun moment,
I
but
know.
you guys
I'm
don't
sorry,
want
we ruined it.
You know,
Jay, we don't want to have fun here.
Yeah, there's no
Yeah.
fun. This is science.
It's a
okay?
serious business.
I'm just
Serious
curious.
business.
I'm curious if the guy, I want to,
but
it's,
nothing's going to happen.
it's like getting called by a scammer. How
I
far
know.
can you go?
Yeah.
How far?
Yeah.
I've had 20-minute phone conversations with
Well,
scammers.
that's different.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right, let's get to. Does this actually work? No, it doesn't. Well, whatever. Let's go to Startalk and Acupuncture. If you want to get to that one.
Yeah. Let's listen to this.
Let's listen to this one. Take that away. Boom. So it starts here, and then I'll jump to the actual
So just-
section with the science on acupuncture and
interviewing
placebo.
someone? What's
Yeah, he
happening?
is. Somebody from the NIH. I forget her name.
Okay.
Everybody was.
I met her when I was in Washington.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about that.
Langevin. Helen or Helene? I don't know. Helene.
Mm-hmm.
Langevin. All right, here we go. We'll just listen to the beginning and then go on.
If the placebo effect works, then maybe we should harness the placebo effect.
I agree. Think about placebo as a healing response, as self-healing, because that's what placebos are.
So what about that?
Yeah. No.
Wow.
That alone, I was like, what?
So it's nonsensical, first of all, to say if the placebo effect works, because that you have to say, well, what's the operational definition of placebo effect?
And what does works mean in that
Right.
situation?
So a lot of people think of the placebo effect as all sort of a mind over matter kind of expectation effect, and she's explicitly stating it straight up. The placebo effect is a healing effect. You're healing yourself. So first of all, no, it is not a healing effect. That has been studied, and by people trying to promote the placebo effect, and there's nothing objective to it. Nothing physical objectively happens from the belief or just a measured placebo effect. There was one study that was done at Harvard that was designed to answer this question explicitly, where they looked at subjects with asthma, and then the next time they had an asthma attack, you could take either a medication, a placebo medication, which is double-blinded, or acupuncture, or placebo acupuncture.
All right. So when you say
Right.
placebo medication and placebo acupuncture,
Yeah, so the placebo
what do you-
medication is a sugar pill.
It's just sugar.
And the placebo acupuncture was fake acupuncture. So there's basically, I forget what, I think they did it at the wrong point. There's basically two things you could do to make placebo acupuncture. One is you poke the skin
With a
with
toothpick.
a toothpick, but don't penetrate the skin. Or you could do needle insertion at the wrong point, not at a non-acupuncture point. Or you could do both. You could poke the skin with a toothpick at a non-acupuncture point, right? So they did one of those, and what they found was they also measured how do you feel, and then let's do an objective measure of pulmonary function testing, right? And I know that they were hoping to find that the placebo effect included that there was objective improvement in pulmonary function.
And guess what?
And guess what? There was an objective improvement in pulmonary function only on the real drug. The placebo drug, acupuncture, and fake acupuncture, none of them had an objective improvement on pulmonary function, but everything had a subjective improvement. So everyone said, oh, I feel better, but only the drug caused a real physiological response.
Right.
Placebo effects are subjective. Plus, it's, operationally, there's multiple effects. It's basically everything other than a physical response to an active treatment. So, you know what I mean? So it includes things like regression to the mean. If you're having symptoms and then you do anything, you're likely to be better because if your symptoms are fluctuating, you're going to take the treatment when they're at their worst.
Right.
And if your symptoms are at their worst, by definition, they're going to get better, right? So there's just sort of this, this natural flow of your symptoms where it creates the illusion that things are getting better, or it's because you want to perceive things as being better, or because you want to please the physician, or you want to have hope in the treatment, or you legitimately emotionally feel better because of the hope or the interaction or whatever. But these are all just subjective feelings. They're not real physiological effects.
So rule of thumb for people moving forward that are listening to this.
Yes.
If they hear someone say the placebo effect,
Yeah.
they should think the person was given a non-drug or non-actual.
Well, the thing is,
right.
you get placebo effects from real treatments too. It's just that when you do a standard clinical trial, right, when you're trying to determine efficacy by definition, you have to compare the placebo plus the treatment to just the placebo, right? And so the treatment has to be above and beyond just the placebo in order to say that it quote unquote works.
Right.
So there is no paradigm by which you could say the placebo effect, quote unquote works, right? Because you're comparing it to the placebo effect. And the thing is, if you compare it to nothing, it's by definition unblinded, and then you can't control for all the confounding factors, again, like that I was saying. But there are ways to try to get around that a little bit. So, for example, if I give somebody a treatment, like an active treatment versus a placebo, or some combination, whatever, of different treatments that I'm comparing, and I'm following like their pain levels, you could ask them, well, how much pain are you in? Right? That's completely subjective.
Right.
But then you could also just survey them about like, their functionality, right? And often we do this. We incorporate functionality scores, like were you able to go to work? Were you able to do your activities of daily living? How functional were you? So if people are more functional, that's a semi-objective.
Right, because it gives you an indication.
It's not just I feel a little better. It's like we're actually functioning better, but also you can survey or record or document how many pain medications that they take. So when patients say, "Oh yeah, I had way fewer headaches with the treatment," but they're taking exactly the same amount of pain medications for their headache.
That's true.
It does, it means that they probably didn't really have a decrease in their pain. They're just subjectively observing or reporting it that way. But it's not meaningful if it doesn't also go along with something at least semi-objective.
Right. So you have these objective things like the amount of medication,
yes,
how mobile they might be,
right,
how functional they are.
Yes.
And those are much more clear indicators of what's actually going on.
Than just, I feel better. Yeah, exactly. So when you do those things, what you find is there's no placebo effect, right? I mean, the placebo effect is subjective, it's short-lived, it doesn't cause actual physiological improvement, it doesn't reduce your death rate, or doesn't change your pulmonary function tests, or whatever, right? It's just all the illusion around it. It's mostly illusion, it's mostly statistical noise, regression to the mean, and it's also partly just subjective reporting. And it's partly, and this is the only sort of mind over matter part, where if people have a positive therapeutic interaction, that they feel happier because they're less depressed or less hopeless, then mood definitely affects your perception of pain or negative symptoms.
Right.
But again, you can get that out of a real intervention. You don't have to be pretending to be giving magical treatments to get that. So the idea that we're going to somehow leverage placebo effects as real medicine, first of all, the alternative medicine crowd has been talking about this for decades because that's all they have, right? There's placebo medicine. That's all they have.
Right. So
they're trying to gin it up as something more than what it actually is.
If we rewind and watch what she says again, she's essentially saying, let's let people fool themselves into thinking that they're getting better.
But she also thinks acupuncture has a real effect. As well.
All right, let's watch that.
So there's sort of the two halves. The one is just sort of pretending the placebo effect is more than it is. And the other half is, and there are actual mechanisms by which acupuncture works, which is all bullshit as well. But the problem is that Neil, as you know, I think he's a fine science communicator. He definitely knows his stuff when it comes to astrophysics. But as long as I have known him, and this goes back 25 years, even before he was famous.
Yeah.
I at least, met him at meetings and knew of him, and he had this blind spot in the medical realm. And
Well, of course,
I have
but he's not.
multiple instances of him saying things that are just like, it's just, all right, you're a good scientist, you may be a good skeptic, you're a good science communicator. This is outside your area of expertise, and you keep running into pitfalls on this issue. Because, and he does it in this video over and over again where he says questions again. He may just be doing it rhetorically just to get the conversation going, but I do think it reflects his lack of understanding that medicine is not physics.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't understand. How could we not know about vitamin D at this point in time? And, in terms of like explaining like regular science, the, director of the NIH, the Complementary Center or whatever, of Integrative Medicine, that she's fine because she's just explaining really basic medical science to everybody. But it just shows you Neil just doesn't know how medical science operates, what the strengths and weaknesses are, and how difficult clinical science is, and how we're always operating kind of on the edges of our knowledge and with a certain amount of uncertainty, and everything is a risk versus benefit, blah, blah, blah.
This is a great example, though,
doesn't
Steve.
get any of that.
But it's a great example of a phenomenon that we have been talking about for an incredibly long time, which is you could be an expert in a field. You could have 20 years of education behind you and an entire lifetime of educating yourself, but your circle of expertise does not horizontally equate to other expertise, right? So
but what it shows you, and again, we, meaning skeptics, have been writing about this for decades, that addressing a topic, especially a pseudoscientific topic or a controversial one or a complicated one, it requires critical thinking skills. It requires knowledge of skeptical topics, like understanding the difference between science and pseudoscience. And it requires specific topic level expertise, right? And just having the general scientific literacy, general critical thinking skills, general skeptical chops are all necessary but insufficient if you lack specific topic expertise.
So let's go dive into that. So as an example, right? And we've seen people do this, like you get in front of someone, like when Bill Nye had the debate with, what was that guy's name from?
Ken Ham?
Yeah, Ken Ham, right?
Yeah.
Now, I thought he did an okay job, but I think he could have done better if he...
Yeah, but Bill prepped by talking to actual scientists.
Yeah, no, he did prep himself, but even still, it's super difficult, to go against someone like Ken Ham or to go against someone like Gish. That was the Gish Gallop was named after. To go after people and have a debate with them or interview them live on a live stream.
Well, you just have to be super aware of when you're getting outside of your area of expertise,
but also prepare yourself for what they're going to say.
Yeah, well, that's
right?
part of but the thing is, yes, you're right, but it's hard to do that if you don't have that topic level expertise,
right?
That specific topic expertise. So, but that's also why you have to make sure you're always checking yourself against what the experts are saying. Now, in this case, in Neil's defense, he is talking to an expert. He is just insufficiently aware that his expert is extremely biased and in one direction, and doesn't necessarily represent the consensus of scientific opinion, or that there is another opinion, an opposite opinion, that of science-based medicine, where there are, many experts who think that she's completely full of shit.
Yeah.
And if you don't take that into account, then, you end up with what we saw in that video, where it's just, sort of kind of pushing back here and there, but nothing, like not really pushing back, like taking at face value all of the core premises of what she's saying, even though it's in my opinion, it's utter nonsense.
So what does Neil say to her? Let's watch.
Why don't we get to that?
Let's watch a little bit more
some
here.
more of this
let's watch.
going on.
Thank you.
All right, I'll jump to the point. Let's see if we get some
One point there, Gary. I don't like asking or inquiring where someone stands on something, because that implies that their heels are dug in and it's not an open scientific process. So rather than think of stances, because anytime somebody has a stance, then they're not giving up.
What are the findings?
What are the findings? That's the way to put this.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, your entire branch of the NIH is entirely concerned with what has historically been called alternative medicine, and acupuncture has been, front and center in that movement.
Well, the first thing is actually we don't call it alternative medicine anymore. It used to be. Now we call it complementary, because none of these therapies are meant to be used instead of conventional medicine. They really meant to be used.
Is that just marketing?
Total. It's 100% marketing.
But they're constantly
Then she went
changing.
on to integrative medicine. It's not now integrative medicine.
Right.
But it has other brands too, functional medicine, whatever. It's all bullshit. It's all the same stuff over and over again. And then all of the, this is also the Trojan horse kind of thing. Again, there's so many layers here that people who are not thoroughly steeped in science-based medicine just don't know about, is that all this best case scenario stuff that she's saying is not what's happening out there in the real world 99.9% of the time, right? Where you have alternative practitioners who absolutely are using it instead of real medicine. You can call it complementary or integrative all you want. That's mostly not what's not happening in the real world. And when it's studied, like if you look at people who use it, there was a study a couple of years ago where they looked at women with breast cancer, and they just said, do you use complementary or alternative modalities or not? And those that did were more likely to die. They died more often and faster than those who didn't use complementary medicine. Why do you think that is? It's because it is degrading their use of effective actual medicine. It's delaying or replacing it, because it's in practice, it's not just complementing it, but it's also the whole complementary thing. There's another layer. Is just a get out of jail free card. Right? Because it's basically saying, the subtext is it doesn't have to actually do anything, because you're still going to take the effective real medicine, but we're just layering this on top, and then we're going to try to look at it a certain way. And say, well, yeah, if you include this also, people feel a little bit better when they get their real treatment, and it's just this parasite sucking at on the back of real medicine, because it doesn't do anything real by itself. Otherwise, it would be, as many people said, it would be medicine. If it worked in any way at any level, it would just be medicine. You wouldn't need its own office at the NIH. It would be integrated into all the
right.
other
I mean, that's the
NIH.
hit. That's almost like the unspoken premise in a sense. Like
Yeah.
Why do we need complementary medicine? Why
Yeah.
do we need functional medicine when we have real medicine? And you're saying like this is actually going to help a little bit more than the real medicine,
And only subjectively. Like
Yeah.
you'll feel a little bit better while you're getting the real medicine.
right? So what's the whole point then?
To make money.
Right.
That's it. The whole point is to make money. But we get to the
we can make
acupuncture
money
part.
off of this. Whoa!
Wait a minute.
Hold on a second.
Hold
Now,
your
don't
horses
talk bad
down.
about it.
Ryan has a good idea. Complementary medicine. Take this ibuprofen, you handsome, intelligent
Yes,
patient.
that'll work. That'll work.
Right.
All right, let's move back to this. All right, let's see where else she goes.
Just
Very
together
important semantic point. Yes.
as important, as appropriate, right? You wouldn't want to use acupuncture to treat cancer.
You're right, but people do.
Yeah,
but people
people
do because you promote it. Because you promote the Trojan horse bullshit, people do use it to treat cancer. That's the thing. And there's no acknowledgement of that from that side of the coin.
And she freaking knows that. There's no way that person doesn't know what's going on, boots on the ground.
Right.
No way.
Yeah.
No way. She's a sympathizer and an apologist.
Basically.
You bastards!
You bastard. Yeah, it does seem like easier to get needles in you than taking like chemo or anything. Like that obviously is
Right.
and
debilitating.
I get
like,
what you're saying about Neil not having the sharpest knife when it comes to this discussion. My opinion of him on the internet is every time I stumble across one of his videos, when he's educating people on science terms and theories and concepts and stuff, he hits it out of the park.
Yeah, he's great. He's great.
He makes it so I can understand things. He's great at that. But this is where like skeptics and scientists can not be prepared and can actually make
Right.
things worse when you're in this situation.
So basically,
right here.
he is an educated science journalist in this video, right?
Right.
Just like with every time we're talking about a topic where we're not topic experts ourselves, right? Which is basically most of the time, we are science journalists.
Exactly.
But you could be a well-informed science journalist, right, with good scientific literacy and I think good critical thinking skills and media savvy, right? You need all those things to be a good science journalist. But you're still not an expert. You're still a science journalist, a science communicator. That's it, which means there's another layer that you have to add in there where you're making sure that what you're saying is accurate, that you are reflecting the consensus of scientific opinion, that you are not accidentally wading into a topic that's more controversial than you realize. And here's another layer, that you're not interviewing a fake expert or an expert who has a controversial opinion or who is an outlier or who's only giving you one half of a very controversial topic.
And right there in that last sentence you just said, that's the entirety of the Joe Rogan show.
Yes, yeah. That's true.
Thank you.
Right, no, because we're very careful in how we select our people that we interview for the show.
Yes, we are.
Want to make sure that they're legit, in what they say. And if sometimes we do deliberately will interview somebody who I think, all right, this guy's out of the mainstream, but I think I can interview him and represent the more standard.
Or if they pay us
side.
enough money, we'll let them come on the show. Or
wait, when?
But but now you are taking a lot. Like you have to make sure that you are really well versed on that topic.
Yeah.
I would feel comfortable interviewing an anti-vaxxer because I know vaccine pseudoscience inside and out. I've been writing about it for 20 years. I feel like I have sufficient topic expertise where I can do that. But I would not do it, I would not debate a climate denier who was a scientist who was a climate denier. You know what I mean? Because they're going to start throwing shit out there that's just one level beyond what I could deal with.
Yeah.
If someone's not a scientist and they're just throwing bullshit that if I'm 2 layers deeper than them, where I feel like, all right, I can field the kind of crap this person's dishing out, I will do it. But this is a very careful calculus.
Absolutely. And to be fair to Neil, most people would be doing it just like this.
Oh, totally.
It is very hard to be super well versed in
you
these
have
topics.
to be versed in science-based medicine. 100%.
Yeah. But it could be any skeptical topic. Like you could talk.
I'm talking about this specific topic.
Yeah, for this one, absolutely. But you could be not prepared to talk to someone about Bigfoot. You'd be like, "Oh, I'm a skeptic and a critical thinker," and then they throw it. Or the big one for real is fake moon landing or flat Earth.
Yeah, remember? So our friend got into a debate on Penn Jillette's radio show.
I remember
on his podcast, where he found himself sitting across from a moon landing hoaxer, and the guy gish-galloped him and threw some shit out there that he hadn't heard before.
Yeah.
And so it took him by surprise, and that was, and Teller, and Penn was not prepared himself for it either. So he was like a gullible interviewer, allowing this other guy to gish-gallop the scientist, and it was terrible.
Yeah.
It was not good. So you have to really be prepared. Like the few times where I've actually debated other people on pseudoscientific topics, I only do it when I feel like I have prepped it forward and back. I have to know everything they're going to say.
Yeah.
And be prepared for what the response is. They can't get away with shit. Like he said things like, "Did you know that the day before the Apollo 11 took off, that the head of NASA quit," or something like that? And it's like, and he had never heard of that.
Yeah.
So all he could say was, "I've never heard that," but it's not a very convincing rejoinder.
Exactly.
It turns out it was a year before, not a day before.
Right.
And there was like a very prosaic reason why that happened. So you have to know that very specific one little fact.
So that guy can't get one up on you because, and then this is an important point here, because people in the audience that don't know much about any of this stuff, when they see a person saying, "I never heard that," or "I don't know about that," or "I can't answer to that," it makes them look like they're the person that doesn't know what's going on. And that's where...
that's the point of the gish gallop. You keep throwing out so much shit that the other person can't possibly deal with it all, or you'll hit something that they maybe hadn't heard. Like, keep throwing new stuff at them, That's why
when you're in these debates, or if you're having an online debate with someone, or if you find yourself in a situation, try to bring it down to one or very few topics.
Yeah.
Don't let them bring. If they bring up other stuff, say, "Whoa, we're not talking about that right now.
Here's
we're going to talk about this."
Yeah. So here's another way to look at this. So in the court of law, right? So the courts of law have rules, and I'm not saying they're perfect, but they have rules that govern the introduction of information into the conversation. Right. You can't just throw anything in there. There are rules for whether or not a person is an expert, for whether or not that is, scientific information, et cetera. And one of the rules is that you can't introduce new evidence that the other side has not had an opportunity to look at. People don't realize this whole courtroom drama thing that happens on TV is totally fake. There's no surprise witness.
I'll take it from there. Yeah, so both sides have had previous exposure to the evidence. They know the information. Like, there is no pull out a secret document that the other side hasn't seen. And it goes both ways. Like, both the defense, and the prosecution have to reveal all of their material.
Discovery.
Yeah.
There's discovery. Yeah. You can't whip out any new information.
That doesn't happen.
Call that surprise witness. That doesn't exist. It doesn't. You have to disclose everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the same thing, like in a debate, in a well-run debate, it's the same thing. Whereas this is what we're talking about. This is the information that we're going to be talking about. And there shouldn't be any surprises because, again, if the point is to get at the truth, or to have a meaningful discussion rather than just, jockeying for gotcha moments, which isn't a good way to actually get at the debate, get at the issue.
And as the critical thinker, you don't want to be seen as chasing the other person all the time, trying to catch up to them. And to answer Olivia's question, why don't you put her question up there so people can see it? Yeah.
Can't always know and prepare for the pseudo argument.
Yeah, so you're right. You can't always know and everything, and you have to be okay telling the other person, look, we're not going to talk about that because we already have this in front of us. We're going to discuss this and this. That's what I agreed to, or that's what we're talking about. If you start bringing up all the other things that we could talk about, we're never even going to get to the finish line on this thing.
What are you trying to hide, Jay?
Yeah.
You're
but it's okay. And, I'm at the point, too, where I'm like, I'm not ready to talk about that. I want to research that before I give you an answer. That's okay to say.
Yeah, within reason. So do you think, though, debate in general is good or just
bad.
Performative or
it's performative.
entertainment?
Debates are bullshit.
I disagree.
It
could serve a purpose, but it's got to be well controlled. A well-run debate is fine.
But most of the time they're not, and that's the problem.
Well, what do you mean? What do you mean by most of the time?
Most of the debates that I've seen.
Well, that's a quirky sample.
Well, holy shit, Steve. Yeah. Ian, do you see what I grew up with?
Debate the debate.
I have
think about
I have feelings.
Squared.
I have a perspective, and Steve's like, you're wrong. That's it. Just walk away.
I just said I disagree with that.
Walk away.
Intelligence Squared runs a good debate. And it works fine.
But the presidential debates, as an example,
they're
a fucking train wreck. They are a train wreck. You shut that fucking microphone off and let the other person finish. You know what I mean? Like, they don't do any of that stuff.
You're supposed to have a cattle prod, too. You zap them a little bit.
Believe me, I wish the presidential debates, I also wish that just interviewing was at a much higher level of our political candidates. It is all performative bullshit. And in America, at least compared to the other countries that I've seen, is particularly bad. Have you ever watched a good BBC journalist interview a British politician? Holy shit, are they prepared? Whether it's in their ear or on their head, doesn't matter. The end result is they will call out any bullshit, and they will drill down deep on the bullshit right there in real time, way better than I've seen any American journalist do.
And why? Why is it that way? I know. It's just a culture. There is a process to get to the truth. When you're asking people questions in an interview, and I see this all the time. I'm not going to get into specifics, but you see things like you have a U.S. senator and they have them on a TV show and they ask them a question. And it's a yes or no goddamn question. And they give you the politician answer, and they don't. So then the interviewer goes, okay, you didn't answer the question. They restate the question, and they go through that cycle 4 or 5 times. I think the interviewer should be like, you're an asshole, right? What is going on? You can't.
That's never going to happen. But listen, like George Stephanopoulos, I think he gets props for doing the best job.
He's good. He gets
where he
down
will
there.
do that, but that's something that you have to do. So, but then he'll say, "So you're not denying it. You're not denying."
Yeah,
this
you have
thing,
to you have to get them around a corner.
but you didn't answer this specific. I'm asking you this specific question, and that's all you could do. If they're not going to answer, they're not going to answer. But you just try to shame them into it as much as possible, and then point out. So you're refusing to answer this specific question. You're not ruling out whatever this A, B, or C.
I remember somebody said good politicians are well trained at redirecting. You're right.
Yes.
You're right. It's a skill
That's the
set,
whole thing.
and they're doing it mindfully.
Oh, it's
absolutely.
deliberate.
But
it's prepared. It's premeditated. That's the skill set.
And I remember being gullible to it, not realizing it. And then, slowly, as I became a better skeptic, I started to realize, like, holy shit, man, the amount of people that don't answer the goddamn question. And they're not.
That's why I think, again, the president. If I had the magic wand, or if
Yeah.
I was the king of America, the
Steve King.
We're voting.
The presidential debates, right? All political debates.
Yeah.
I would completely reformat them. So even like best case now, they're just parallel press conferences. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
not. They're very rarely actually debating. And when they do, it's all about they got their gotcha line, they got their one prepared little performance thing that they're trying to do. Whereas what I would love to see is like debates where there are very few topics, and it's like we're going to explore your policy towards global warming, energy, climate change. That's the topic for this debate tonight. And then the moderators who are well informed and expert, will then not just like talk for a minute. Now you talk for 30 seconds. It's more like answer the question and then you do a follow up and you say, well, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah.
How is what you're going to do different from what this guy just said? And then have it be an actual freaking debate where the moderators are also, interjecting information in real time. You know what I mean? So where we at the end of the day, we actually understand how they think about this topic, what their policies are going to be on this topic, what they're going to do about it, and how and how well they understand it and how well they defended their position, not just who had the best one-liner.
Sound bites. It's bullshit.
There you go again.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Like get fucking elected because you had a good quip. It's just ridiculous.
It
It's
works
ridiculous.
though. It works.
But
It freaking
that's-
works,
that's
man.
the problem.
I was too
Anyway.
busy doing my job. It's like, yeah, forget it. You're never gonna. It's already. It's so far gone in the U.S. Like I can't imagine it getting any better at this point. It just continues to get worse.
What is it about the UK and Australia though that they do seem to push back so much?
Because they
against
don't
the
put up with their
politicians?
bullshit.
Yeah, but like why? Why?
Culture.
Culture.
That's just where they got to culturally.
I guess,
And
yeah.
But I think it's also just the culture within journalism.
Right. Like, why is that so different in America? Like corporate pressures or like
I don't know.
who knows? All right. Anyway, all right. Maybe there's some more stuff that she talks
There's
about.
a ton of shit. We just scratched
just
I know,
scratched
but
the
it's like,
surface.
how
I know.
much are we going to watch this?
I know. Well, it's I think a lot of this will be good prep for tonight when you guys do more of this. Let's see what she has more to say.
However, you might want to use acupuncture to help manage some of the symptoms that people have when they have cancer treatment. Very importantly, pain, for example. A lot of people with cancer have pain that is very difficult to manage. Fatigue, problems sleeping, problems with stress. In fact, there's a very good study that has shown that there's a certain cancer drug that causes a lot of musculoskeletal pain in women with breast cancer. And when acupuncture was used in addition to the cancer treatment, it did such a nice job helping with the pain that a lot of the times the women were able to stay taking their medication, which a lot of times people have to discontinue this medication because the side effects are so serious. But acupuncture helped with that. So you can see it's really
She listed all of the things that are vague, right? Pain. Again, how do you measure pain? How do you measure sleepiness? Or, all that stuff. You can't, these are all just vague things.
Well, so now you get to the next level in terms of, again, the topic expertise. It's like, okay, that's her characterization of the literature on acupuncture.
Mm-hmm.
That's not my characterization of the literature on acupuncture. And again, I've debated this in writing in a peer-reviewed journal and totally kicked ass, by the way, because the facts are very, very clear here. The acupuncture has not been shown to work for anything to a reasonable degree, right? It all depends on where you set your threshold of evidence. And where you set your threshold of clinical evidence depends on whether or not the treatment, it varies somewhat based upon the prior plausibility of the treatment. Is there a mechanism? Blah blah blah. So, if you ask the question, does acupuncture work? Right. We talked about defining what work means. Right. It has to show effects above and beyond placebo. You also have to define acupuncture, and everybody basically universally defines acupuncture as sticking needle in acupuncture points, right, for medical effects. But what the studies show is that when you really, really properly control them and design the studies, it doesn't matter where you stick the needles or even if you stick the needles, right? So the two parts that make up acupuncture don't seem to matter. And every study that appears to show an effect, first of all, oftentimes the effect's negligible. It's like not clinically significant. Or when it is a reasonable effect, there was something flawed about the study. They never quite have all the pieces in place.
Yeah, they can't quite get it right.
They didn't blind it properly or whatever. They just did, or they threw in electroacupuncture. It's like, okay, well, that's just electrical stimulation. That's not acupuncture. You're deliberately muddying the water in order to create the illusion that there's something real going on here when there isn't. But the idea that putting a needle into a specific point has a specific effect has never been shown. In fact, acupuncturists, based upon their own research, can't even agree on where the acupuncture points are.
I know.
Or what they're for. And when you do like systematic reviews, I've looked at multiple systematic reviews. You say, here's the 10 studies that look at acupuncture for this specific thing. No two studies use the same acupuncture points, because they're all just making it up as they go along.
Yeah, yep.
Right? There's no internal validity. It's not like, well, we use this specific acupuncture point because this one has been shown to have this specific effect, and we know it's here. Here's the study and the evidence showing that this is where, with a high precision, that acupuncture point is, and then here's some information backing up why that acupuncture point has this physiological effect. That does not exist. That does not exist because acupuncture is not real. Acupuncture points do not exist. They have no basis in anatomy or physiology or functionality. And the kind of stuff she's saying is what they've been saying for decades, and yet never actually happens. Never actually comes to fruition. It's always that, well, we're looking at the mechanism and we're looking at this. You've been looking at it for decades. You can't find it because it doesn't exist.
Steve, what
it's
degree
just
does
this
she
endless, circle.
Circle of bullshit. What's her degree?
I think
do we know?
MD.
She's probably MD, PhD. I
Oh,
think.
boy,
she is.
Yeah, she wasted her money.
She's
she's a believer. She is a believer.
NCCIH director.
Yeah. She's a
MD.
total believer. There's no question.
Yeah. Oh, neurological science. Look at that. Yeah.
Yes, if you're willing to accept low-quality evidence, you could believe anything.
Oh, the world is full of these people.
Right.
Yeah, neurochemistry and neurochemical pharmacology, specifically, I guess. Yeah, okay. So let's see if there's anything more. I know that she goes on for a while, but we could see.
Complementary treatment
Yeah.
that helps.
That makes a lot of sense, you saying that, yeah.
Yeah, and where does the placebo effect show up here? That should be, it seems to me, a very big part of your budgetary explorations, because so much of people's expectations are just fulfilled in their own physiology, and maybe that's fine. I mean, I if the placebo effect works, then maybe we should harness the placebo effect.
I agree 100%. So think about placebo.
The placebo effect is.
So the classic way to describe a placebo, it's a fake treatment, right? Something that has no effect, that's supposed to have, like a sugar pill, for example, and that you take thinking that you've taken a real treatment, and there's a certain placebo response to that. In a sense, it's just the fact of taking this placebo substance. A lot of times, this helps people to get better, and it's very interesting because people used to think that it was a deception. But people have started to do what we call open label placebos, where you actually tell the person, this is a placebo. And you compare that to taking no placebo, and people still...
we've reviewed that. All of this, by the way, has been reviewed ad nauseum on science-based medicine. We've delved into each one of these sub-claims that she's making. So I know the exact studies that she's talking about. And the problem, it's also the same guy, by the way, who did the asthma study that failed to show what he wanted to show. But they are actually not deception-free placebos. They may be open label placebos, but they were not deception free because they were still told, the people taking the placebos, that scientists think this has a real effect, and which is not true. And so, you know, it wasn't quite what they were claiming it to be. But again, also, she's giving a very simplistic and sanitized view of like that placebos depend upon the expectation of benefit. They depend upon like this mind over matter thing. And that's just not true. It is simply not true. Because there's multiple other aspects that can go into the measured placebo effect that have nothing to do with your belief that you're taking a real intervention, right? Like regression to the mean, for example, like other non-specific effects of just the fact that you're in a clinical trial, you're getting more attention, you know, you're probably taking better care of yourself in other ways, right? There's all these, so many things. That's why we have to control for all of it with, you know, placebo-controlled trials. So that's just, you know, I think a profoundly naive sort of summary of that. And then just hanging your hat on, oh, we did the open label placebo. Yeah, but that was a bullshit trial. Didn't show what they claimed it showed.
Yeah. Let's see if there's some more over here.
Can get better with these open label placebos. Now, what's going on here, right?
Positive mental attitude, doctor. That's what we used to call, back in the day, PMA. Yeah, you heal yourself.
But some people think that there's something about the ritual of taking something and saying, I'm taking this pill and this is something that I'm doing to help me get better, which is what when you take an open label placebo, you know you're taking a placebo, but you're still taking it, and there's a therapeutic effect to that. We still don't quite understand what it involves, but it's a very, very
Why not? This is 2024. You're the NIH. You get $1 bajillion a
Jealousy,
year, more than NASA.
just jealous.
And you cannot tell me how placebos work.
Well, we have some idea. We know that there are pathways in the brain that have, for example, for pain, right? We know that there are pathways in the brain that influence how much the pain bothers you. You may still have pain, but you may have a certain amount of stress or anxiety or suffering associated with the pain. And this involves some areas of the brain. The placebo, interestingly enough, when you take a placebo and you do studies using a functional MRI in the brain, you can see these pathways being activated by the placebo. The pathways that interact. It's not just, I mean, you still feel the pain, but it's how you respond.
What I would flimsily describe as changing your brain chemistry then.
What? Your brain mechanisms.
So,
you know what else changes your brain chemistry? Watching this video right now. Because the brain is a electrochemical organ. Everything that you do and experience and think of whatever changes your brain chemistry from that flimsily, you know, whatever.
What does that even mean? Like,
I know, right? To the point where it's meaningless. Listen, so the thing is, she's sort of correct here, although she's trying to put a different spin on it. In that, yes, pain is a subjective experience. It is highly modifiable. It is modifiable by your mood, by your level of anxiety, by all these things. And so absolutely, you know, we try to leverage that already in medicine. That's like what the guy said was calling a positive mental attitude or a good bedside manner. You know, this is the mommy kissing the boo-boo effect, right? These things do help because there are positive, these are non-specific effects. I wouldn't call them therapeutic because the word therapeutic implies something. They are symptomatic treatments, not therapeutic by definition. Again, they do play with terminology here in order to imply something that is not strictly true. It is a symptomatic treatment that involves, you know, leveraging these, you know, cognitive effects that affect our perception of pain and how much we're bothered by the pain, how much we are able to look at the pain. Like there was a study which showed, like if I'm doing a procedure on somebody's left arm, if they look at the left arm while I'm sticking a needle in it or whatever, they feel more pain than if they look at the right arm. Mm-hmm. Is that a placebo effect? Is that changing their brain chemistry? Should I tell them, you know, if you look away, it may not hurt as much? Of course we do that because it's real. You know what I mean? There was another study which showed that if people swear, they perceive less pain. So if you go, fuck, that really hurts, it hurts less than if you don't swear. Is that a placebo effect? Is that affecting your brain chemistry? You know, will the pathways in your brain light up on fMRI? Of course they will because your brain's working. This is all just part of how your brain functions.
So they're basically like trying to make it. They've made an industry.
Yeah, it's an industry out of bullshit.
Out of this
Yeah.
complete bullshit.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
Yeah, it's an industry out of non-specific effects. I've said this, written about this many times in science-based medicine. You take these non-specific effects that are just part of the background of good bedside manner, of the touchy-feely part of establishing a therapeutic relationship and getting people to feel better and maybe distracting them a little bit from their pain. She admits at another point in the video that distraction is a part of it. Yeah, it's all distraction. That's right. That's what we're saying. But the thing is that all of this type of stuff, this sort of making you feel a little bit less anxious and making you, whatever, and making you feel a little bit more hopeful, distracting you from the pain, all of this non-specific stuff, they use that, again, this is the Trojan horse approach, they use that to then say acupuncture works, and we're not talking about alternative, we're just talking about complementary. And then meanwhile, there's a whole industry of people out there using acupuncture as a therapeutic treatment, which is also why throwing the word therapeutic out there is very problematic. So she is basically shilling for snake oil when she does this, whether that's what she thinks she's doing or not. That's the end result. And all of which is just to gin up this treatment, which is no more effective than kissing the boo-boo. This is just all boo-boo kissy treatment. That's all it is.
Boo-boo kissing.
My God, that's such an incredible way to label it.
It's it. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, so basically, they just want people, they want to be talked to nicely. Can I help you,
there was
boo-boo?
even just one study with acupuncture where they compared, they were doing acupuncture for some pain indication, and they had acupuncturists who had 20 years of experience, right, compared to acupuncturists with less than 5 years of experience, versus people who were given a 10-minute training session on how to fake doing acupuncture, how to look like they're doing acupuncture, right? 10 minutes, no actual clinical experience or training. And then they also varied, like, all right, then some of you can talk to the patient and should be as warm and encouraging as you can, and the rest of you should absolutely minimize your interaction with the patient and answer only direct clinical questions, no extraneous interaction. Which of those two variables do you think influenced the positive effect from the acupuncture? Was it the years of experience, or was it the comforting interaction?
I'm going to go out on a limb here.
Go out on a limb and say it was the comforting interaction. It doesn't, so that's, again, it's the ritual. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter if you poke them randomly with toothpicks, or whether you're doing auricular versus Korean versus Japanese versus Chinese acupuncture. None of it matters. It's all astrology. It's all medical astrology. Literally, historically, it's medical astrology. That's what it is. There were 365 acupuncture points originally. Do you know why? Because there's 365 days in the year.
Except for every 4. There's one extra.
The meridians and the acupuncture points was just a reflection of the Chinese astrological map onto the human body. It was literal astrology. That's where they came up with them. And now there's thousands of acupuncture points. You know why? Because it doesn't matter where you stick in the needle. Anything could be an acupuncture point. And that which is like saying, if everybody wins, then nobody really wins, right? Like it was never a real contest in the first place. If every place on your body is an acupuncture point, then there are no acupuncture points. Then there's no difference between one point and another point. If two acupuncturists can't agree on where they are or what they're for, or which ones they should be used or whatever, and there's no objective way to see any difference, then they don't exist, right?
Yeah. I mean, and if one of these methodologies requires magic, which chiropractic and acupuncture needs magic in order to actually function the way that it's
so. And there's 2 layers of magic here, right? And so chi is the one layer of magic. You need the magical life, the life energy. And then some say, well, okay, maybe there's no chi, but it's working through some kind. It's the autonomic nervous system and the fMRI. It's all bullshit. That's not verifiable or true. But so they're trying to make it seem like there's a mechanism, but that doesn't get you away from the other layer of magic. So you're telling me that 2,000 years ago, before they could actually even make acupuncture needles, right? They were using lances. That somehow they figured out that this little tiny part of the ear connects to your intestine through some kind of pathway. They figured that out. How did they figure that out? The scientific method didn't exist.
The hip bone's connected to
Right.
no, they didn't have songs.
So you have to think they somehow stumbled upon an accurate map that we still can't see,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
But just, come on. It's impossible.
But Steve,
it's literally impossible.
But Steve, when the doctor speaks to them nicely, they feel a little better.
Right.
What are you frickin' saying? Somebody asked, don't you guys get tired of dealing with this level of BS? And the answer was, we were tired of it before we even started the podcast. Yes, we do get tired of it. But you know what?
No, whatever.
We're fighting back.
It's fun,
We're-
and yeah, it's important.
We're fighting back.
It's important to do it.
We got this question or a statement, I think, from Rebecca Fuchs.
Fuchs.
I'm
That's
not going to
Fuchs.
pronounce. Let's not
Fuchs.
pronounce the last name. Yeah, Rebecca F. She points out, speaking about Helene, I think, or Langevin, she points out that alternative medicine is an addition to traditional medicine, not a substitution. Even if I find it mostly useless, at least it helps people understand that you can't just switch.
But
You know,
does it?
But does it?
But
right.
does it, right? So again, when it's studied, it turns out not so much. That it actually is used as a replacement, it is used as a first-line treatment, that people who do use it, whether they say they rely upon it or not, they have worse outcomes because they are not getting as good care, or they're diverting their resources, their time and attention away from actual things that help. Or the other thing is the sort of unmeasurable thing is, who do you think's delivering the alternative, complementary, integrative bullshit medicine to them?
Yeah.
Do you think it's people that are supporting a science-based view of medicine and doctors and health and disease and illness? Or do you think it's people who are imbuing and reinforcing in them conspiracy theories about big pharma and about the authorities and about the industrialized medicine, and are conveying all kinds of pseudoscientific ideas about vibrations and detoxing and all this crap, and maybe you don't need those vaccines? You don't have to speculate. We know the answer to these questions. The industry promotes dangerous misinformation, promotes conspiracy theories, promotes anti-vaccine ideology. It is harmful on multiple levels, and this sort of completely sanitized version that the NIH is trying to sell doesn't exist in the real world. It's bullshit. It's the Trojan horse.
Yeah.
It is not reality.
It's how they keep getting the money.
Yeah.
So another way to look at it too is, these figures are available online, but how much money is spent on alternative medicine? Billions of dollars, right? That is money just completely being thrown away. It doesn't further anything, because the things that they're selling don't get better over time. They don't become more useful over time. It's just the money is completely wasted. Now, if we were paying medical professionals that money, it would inspire a increase in knowledge. It would move the practices forward. It would actually be a positive
Well, here's
thing.
another thing. Science advances as much by proving what's not true as proving what is true. And this is very important in medicine. Knowing what doesn't work is really important in medicine, right? And I've had this question now from multiple people from this, whatever version of the Office of Alternative Medicine at the NIH. So tell me something that you've proven doesn't work. I'll wait. And have you ever come out and said, this doesn't work, we do not recommend you use this? Like, pick the worst possible candidate, like homeopathy. I remember I asked it, so what's your stance on homeopathy? Well, we're not currently funding any research on homeopathy. Okay, but will you rule out ever funding research on homeopathy? Are you willing to come right out and say, homeopathy doesn't work, it's a complete scam, and should be completely stripped from the world of alternative medicine? Have you ever said that? Why not? Are you saying that you're leaving the door open, that it might work? If they can't say that the air guitar of medicine, the complete 100% incontrovertible, demonstrable bullshit snake oil of homeopathy, if they can't say, you know what, this doesn't work, we really should just, this should not be considered part of legitimate complementary medicine. If they can't say that, they're worthless. then they will never say that anything doesn't work. And again, if everybody wins, nobody really wins, right? If you're not separating winners from losers with the scientific evidence, what the F are you doing? Nothing. So, right? So if they say, well, if you prove that something doesn't work, like if you fund a $100 million study and you show that this supplement or whatever doesn't work, does that negatively affect its marketing value? Well, temporarily it does drop a little bit, but then it goes right back up again, and other things take its place as well. So, but the overall, supplement industry keeps getting bigger. There's sort of shifting, winners. People are some are more popular than others. The individual popularity of individual supplements may rise and fall a little bit, but they are all generally going up over time, and the whole industry is going up. And so even though you've funded and published a series of negative studies showing that pretty much none of the popular of herbal supplements work for the things that they're sold for, it hasn't had an impact on the industry. That's the problem. That's something that you should be concerned about, right? You should be concerned about the fact that you're doing all this research and no one's listening.
Yeah, and this is a prime example of, and it's not just the U.S. government.
Yeah.
Governments in general typically don't have consumer protection around these things. And you have to be educated.
Well, they do, but it's just ineffective.
Yeah.
Or it's sort of a halfway measure, or it's just easy to game the system, or
people need to be educated and understand this stuff. And but
the individual responsibility only takes you so far. And that should never be the final, defense against snake oil, is that every individual has to educate themselves on this very complicated area of science to make sure that they, can individually counter the claims being made by pseudo experts who seem to know what they're talking about and are telling them what they want to hear. Like, no, it's a completely unworkable system. It's like, yes, you're better off if you are well educated than if you're not. But the system, because the consumer should be protected from fraud, from outright fraud, right? Homeopathy is 100% fraud, demonstrably, unequivocally, 100% fraud. And if we can't, that's always my litmus test. If you can't regulate that or admit that, then that's a problem. Then there's a fundamental flaw in the system. So, that office of the NIH has no legitimacy until they can say, all right, it didn't work. We have enough evidence to say this doesn't work and it should go away.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's really just trying to promote complementary.
That's right. Yeah, they take the money that they get from the government
to show if it works, but to show that it works.
Yeah.
And in fact, they admitted it. They freaking admitted it. It's like when they say the quiet part out loud that by accident. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The senator who was instrumental in funding this office at one point was complaining. It's like, we've given you hundreds of millions of dollars and you haven't proven that anything works. What's wrong? You get out there and prove that this works. Like, no, dude, you're doing it wrong. That's not the way science works. You can never, say prove that this works. It has to be you should be showing if it works. And when it's negative, you've got to shout that from the rooftops as loud as when it's positive. Right? But they don't. That's why it's bullshit.
Well, all right, and this is why
in Europe where they get homeopathy in every pharmacy.
Well, we get that here, don't we?
Yeah.
I mean, CVS has homeopathy, and
yeah,
and like
it is more seamless in the European pharmacy.
Oh,
so there are also homeopathic pharmacies. Like,
really?
This is the homeopathica or whatever the word is, translated into English.
Well,
it's bigger. Homeopathy is bigger in Europe. Chiropractic is bigger in the U.S. But it's different.
Nutty. I don't know if we want to do any more of this.
I think we're good.
Yeah,
we're good.
I
think we're good.
And plus, you'll have more to talk about on the podcast tonight, which you guys will get on Saturday. There was one, so there's a comment that maybe we can actually respond to.
Okay.
Which I think might be valuable because it comes from somebody that we just posted about this week. If you remember this one, the Reiki can't possibly work. Mm-hmm. So this is from Britt's book. She actually commented on our post like right as after I posted it. So I think she watched it ASAP. So I don't at all endorse what Reiki claims to be. I simply find the subjective reports to be interesting and worth our attention to see how the tool works.
Yeah,
so I don't know if she's splitting hairs, kind of trying to thread the needle or something.
Yeah.
So she seemed to have like some reservations in her own video, but not enough. It seemed like she was pretty.
But she seemed to take at face value this Atlantic article about so why does it work? You know? And again, sort of accepting these clinical trials without this is where the rubber meets the road. Like a lot of what we talk about in science-based medicine is evaluating clinical trials and deciding where the threshold is for something has been adequately proven to either be safe or to be effective. And it's complicated. It is complicated. You have to be able to dissect clinical trials in extreme detail. And there are, again, I consider myself an expert at this, and yet there are ones that if they're outside my area of expertise within medicine, sometimes I'm like, gee, I don't really... This is getting a little bit deep in the weeds on something I don't really know a lot about. I have to, check with somebody who actually knows more than I do about this. But there are sort of generic things that you can evaluate about any clinical trial, like was it properly blinded? Did they assess the blinding? What was their outcome measure? Was it an objective outcome measure? Did they show that their study was capable of seeing a difference between treatment group and the placebo group? Did they control for confounding factors? Was it adequately randomized? What was the dropout rate? Was the dropout rate equal between the two groups? So these are sort of the generic things that you go through. And when you don't even pass that bar, like just generic quality of methods, for clinical study, you don't really even have to get into the weeds on the little details. If the broad brushstrokes were terrible. And so that's what we're dealing with Reiki. They're not even getting onto base. They're not even doing basic good clinical trials. Again, they're doing the kind of trials that are designed to create a false positive result. That's their purpose, is to create a false positive result. Not to say if Reiki works, but to show that it does work, right? That they're practically designed to do that. What you never have with any of the magical treatments, and certainly not with Reiki or homeopathy or acupuncture, is a trial that is designed to really adequately tell if it works, that shows a repeatable, robust, clinically significant result. You just never get that. You never get that package. You do for lots of things that do work, right? But never for the magical stuff that has really super low prior plausibility. Like I'm manipulating the energy waves around you. They never seems to work. And there's a reason for that, right?
Steve, somebody asked, so put more money into schools then? What should people be taught in school to guard them against pseudoscience? Well, the sad thing is that critical thinking is not taught formally basically anywhere in public schools. It's not in the canon.
Not in the curriculum, but
so the problem is...
It sort of is, but not really.
Not really,
yeah.
No. They're not going to walk away with anything that's going to move any needles here.
I mean, maybe if they get the right teacher. It's all very quirky and very individual teacher-driven, but it's not systematically, specifically taught in a way that I think is adequate. That would be nice. But so that's one layer. The other layer is regulation, Yeah. That, again, there's no substitute for that. But again, the thing is, and this has been shown multiple times, is that you need to in order to really have an adequate defense against falling for sophisticated pseudoscience, what level of scientific literacy and critical thinking skills do people need to get to? You really need to get to postgraduate level of education before susceptibility to pseudoscience really starts to go down significantly. In fact, it can increase, before that, because people just get a false sense of confidence, but they don't realize how much it is that they don't know.
Right. Or you could read our book, and then I think it skews that quite a bit.
Yeah.
Well, you cut to the chase. A watered down version of critical thinking isn't very helpful. You really need to get to a certain bar.
Yeah.
And then you have a functioning baloney detector where red flags will come up in your brain and you'll be able to is that real? That seems like, it gives you a whole new layer. It gives you a whole new layer of reality perception. right? That critical thinking is a filter that your reality then goes through that you can protect yourself with. And somebody said it in here. And even still, we still are susceptible to scams.
Yeah.
And all sorts of bullshit that's out there because it's so...
You never arrive. It's a lifelong process.
Yeah.
You're just constantly trying to refine and refine and refine and get better and, shore things up and,
Yeah, we talked about the actor guy on
Terrence
Joe
Howard.
Rogan. Yeah, we talked about him.
Yeah, that was from last week. So go check out last week's live stream.
He's cray-cray.
You'll
Yeah,
see.
that guy, woo.
Yeah, he went a little off the deep. I have to like this one comment because it says placebo effect is a hell of a drug, which is a Rick James
That
reference.
is awesome. I
It's
missed that one.
We have to like that one. Okay, very good. We have maybe some other ones, but we could go on to the TikToks, or if you don't have anything else to say about this Reiki.
The three of us need to have a meeting.
That's true. We do.
So we
need
can't
to do
finish
that
late because
too.
I got to get.
All right, well, why don't we go right to the TikTok videos?
Yeah, let's do that.
I will
Let's see,
recuse myself.
But then we'll meet after. This won't take long.
Yeah.
These
Yeah,
are brief.
we'll bang them out.
Bang a
real
baby.
quick.
All right, so have a good week, everybody.
All right, we'll see Jay
Are we doing
next
a Friday
time.
live stream?
Yeah, we
think
can do
so.
Friday.
I
I
think
think,
we're doing
that's
it.
good.
Yep.
All
Are
is
we?
well. I think everybody back as well.
Yeah.
So that should be good. Let me switch over to the TikTok camera, which will show Jay for a moment, and then eventually it won't, as Jay recuses himself. All right, talk to chat. Here's Steve.
Someone said the first SGU book should be a textbook. I agree, and it is. I know have been emailed by many high school teacher and even college professor who say that they use it as part of their curriculum in their class on either science or critical thinking or whatever, which we really appreciate that.
Let me stop recording there. Let that remux real quick. Did you have a preference in which one you wanted to do
whatever.
first?
Just hit me. I'm good.
Hit me. All right, let me...
Yes, we have two books out. The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe is just a general book on critical thinking, and then The Skeptic's Guide to the Future, which is all about futurism and where science and technology is headed.
And they are both available if you go to theskepticsguide.org/books, or there's a button for books. So feel free to go there. All right, here we go. Let me full screen this. Let me make sure this finishes remuxing real quick while we talk to chat. Cheers from Chile. Hello. Let's see. I gifted to my family, and they were offended. We can't read books.
You have to offend people every now and then.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
If you never offend somebody, you're not doing it right.
Wait, Skeptics, using this break to let you know my team now knows about the watermelon incident, and we use the watermelon emoji daily to note silly situations. How proud are you? Wow, it's truly international and outside of my purview. I no longer control it, so that's pretty awesome.
Right, it's taking on a life of its own.
Okay.
The watermelon.
All right.
100 years from now, Ian, people will be using the watermelon emoji to denote some kind of a silly whoops.
Oh, yes.
And, kind of a harmless kind of,
Yes.
I screwed up.
Oh, my gosh.
And historians will have a hard time tracking it back
Where was that?
to the moment that little meme got introduced into the human
Hopefully
consciousness.
YouTube will still exist by then. I don't know. Words to live by. Okay, it's such an eloquent book. It's amazing. Oh, thank you very much. The guys will say
Appreciate it.
All right, let me hit the start recording, and we will go on to the TikTok picture-in-picture. This guy's tapping right on your head. Okay, we got that going. That's rolling. Here we go.
Neo, are you awake yet? Do you still not believe? Focus on the cross and tell me what you see. These are things that can only be seen through your peripheral vision. This is not a trick. This is not an illusion. The longer you watch...
It's pretty good.
That's it. It's just more of the same.
That's it. It feels like a extravaganza bit.
Yeah.
It's like we might have to steal that. All right, let me go here. All right, we're rolling.
Well, actually, it is 100% an optical illusion. This has been known about for quite some time, about 20 years, that this optical illusion exists. It's been described, for quite a while. And there's been studies looking at what causes it, which is a good way to show the difference between sort of the conspiracy approach to a weird phenomenon. Oh, look at this. If I look at people's faces through my peripheral vision, they seem distorted and even monstrous or weird. It must be a conspiracy of the lizard people who are controlling the world secretly, versus a scientific approach, which is like, why does my brain do that? Let me do some research to try to find out why that happens. So the neuroscientists who've actually researched the question have come up with some interesting pieces of information. We haven't nailed down exactly like what's happening in the brain to cause this optical illusion, but it is an area of active research. But what they have found is that it relates very strongly to the fact that we are seeing these images out of our peripheral vision. Now that your peripheral vision, really, again, if you hold up your thumb in front of you, you're legally blind everywhere outside of the size of your thumbnail. Your vision is a complete blur, but your brain constructs it into the seamless experience of an in-focus, detailed world. But that's not the images that are falling onto your retina. It does that by stitching together the information that you do see, which is kind of also why your eyes dart around a little bit. You're sort of picking up information and you're sort of weaving it together in patchwork. Your brain's filling in the missing details based on what it knows, in its memory banks. Like it has a memory of what an elephant looks like. So if you're seeing an elephant, it's sort of filling in the gaps of an elephant. And this produces a lot of optical illusions, right? Which is basically when you create an ambiguous situation that causes your brain to not quite sure how to put things together or tricks it into putting things together in the wrong way. And here, what's happening is that your brain is trying to sort of reconstruct these images from fixed peripheral information, right? So normally our eyes would be darting around and we would have the detailed information to fill in the gaps. But if you're focusing between the pictures and then for a sustained amount of time, you are just relying on your blurry peripheral image, your brain is having a progressively harder time stitching that image together into that of a face, so it gets progressively distorted. That's what's happening. The same thing happens, but to a lesser degree, if you present people with blurry images in their front vision, right? If in their central vision. So, but it's not. But the peripheral vision is a bigger effect than just the blur. So it's more than just the blurriness itself that's doing that. So anyway, this is an interesting neuroscientific question. It's actively being studied. We're learning about it. It's clearly an optical illusion based upon how our brains, construct our visual images. And you don't have to imagine that the world is being secretly run by lizard men who somehow can mask themselves, but not quite enough that you can reveal the masking only in your peripheral vision. That seems like a rather extraordinary and complicated way of explaining something that's otherwise pretty straightforward and fairly well understood, optical illusions.
All right, cool. And hey, shout out George Robb in the chat. I don't know if he's behind or if he's watching with us live right now, but because he was talking about some other topics that we were talking about earlier. But so shout out to him.
Oh, George. Hey, George.
George. That
I
George.
see you.
The George. The one and only. Okay, cool. So we got that one.
This is when you look at the pictures of people in your periphery, they start to look like demons.
If you guys
their eyes get freaky,
Yeah, if you didn't know what this was, so look at the
dot in
cross, or dot, and we'll just play it a little bit. You'll see the eyes get really weird looking.
And tell me what you see.
It just they just blend together or something. It's pretty funny.
And as always, I have no idea if this guy is legit or not.
I know. It's one of those things.
Yeah. Like it's just, you could just stop asking the question because you'll never know.
Also, I've never seen a lizard look like that. So I don't know why there are lizard people.
It's anomaly hunting. It, from one perspective, it's just, something weird's happening. It's a conspiracy, They look sort of monstrous. It's the lizard men.
Exactly.
Whatever. Okay.
All right. Enough of that one. We can move on maybe to this one.
Oh, God.
Free energy.
Boy, oh, boy.
It's back and will never go away. All right, let's start
Never
recording.
left.
Never left. All right, here we go.
Now cut the video. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe that's just a flywheel, but also based on the sound, it sounds like it's reversed.
Yeah,
'Cause
100%.
you know?
100%. We'll talk
All
about
right,
it.
go ahead.
Yeah. So let me tell you how that video is made. You notice that it's a flywheel and there's an actual place on the right side where you could put a belt. So you have a motor, you put the belt around that, you spin it up to a high speed, then you remove the belt so it can't be seen. Then you film the flywheel running very, very fast and then slowing down over time, right? Then you videotape yourself turning the wheel in the opposite direction that it was going, and then cut to the reversed video that you just made of the flywheel slowing down so it looks like it's speeding up. That it certainly is one possible explanation for that video, and it makes a lot of sense. A lot of astute people in the comments pointed out that the sound suddenly sounds different when there's an unnecessary and unexplained cut in the video. If you were trying to demonstrate a phenomenon like that, why would you have a discontinuous video? That cut is always suspicious, right? It means something happened in between the two takes. It was completely unnecessary. Do it again with one take. I mean, if but of course you can't because it's fake. The video is fake. And the sound, I think, does give it away. But it's always a good opportunity to explain how we know it's fake, right? And that's because of the laws of physics, right? Never bet against the laws of physics. In this case, the laws of thermodynamics. So, energy can't come from nowhere. So you would have to ask yourself, well, where is the energy coming from that is accelerating this flywheel if this video were legitimate? Right? Can't come from nowhere. So sometimes, fake perpetual motion machines have like hidden motor or batteries or wires or whatever. I didn't see anything in this case. It could be the case here, but again, there's a simpler explanation, so you don't need to hypothesize that. But sometimes that's the answer. The energy is coming from a fake source. Sometimes it's coming from a more subtle source, like the video or the claim may be sincere, but the person doesn't realize that there is some other source of subtle energy that they're not accounting for. Sometimes like thermal expansion will cause something to move, and that gets interpreted as perpetual motion. In this case, I think it's just they reversed the video. There is no external source. There's no plausible energy source that could possibly do this. It's just a flywheel, right? What's he even claiming is going on here? Another way to look at it is, you can hear the flywheel, right? So whenever something's making sound, that is basically noise, is energy radiating away from the system, right? It means the system is losing energy, right? The energy that it takes to shake the air molecules and to make noise. Noise is energy radiating away from a system. And so if you can hear it, it's losing energy by definition, which makes sense if the flywheel is really slowing down, right? As that friction and energy, it's probably also radiating a little heat, right? So it's losing some energy as heat. The laws of thermodynamics indicate that that pretty much has to be the case. It's losing some energy in resistance. It's losing some energy in sound. And so it should be slowing down over time, unless there's the input of some energy, right? Which there doesn't appear to be in this video. There's no magic. There is no, free energy. There's no extraneous energy source that we don't know about, going on in these perpetual motion kind of free energy demonstrations. None of them have ever worked out, right? Over a century, there's always some backyard engineer who thinks that they've created some kind of endless source of energy never, ever, ever works out because it simply is impossible. It would violate the laws of thermodynamics. Never bet against the laws of physics.
Very good. Okay. And we have a final one.
I mean, the cut in the video is
I know, so crazy. It's like so clearly,
Lose.
yada yada. But I guess if you're not really hip to video editing, if you've never watched a Captain
I did this
Disillusioned,
50 years ago. We got our first home camera. What do you think was the first thing we did with our home camera? Is we cut and did shit and made funny videos, you know,
Right.
by just doing the. I mean, come on.
yeah, I know it's true. It's true. All right. Well, this one is fortuitous or good timing. Chemically injected watermelons. Oh Lord. Okay, let's go hit the record button, and let me just rewind it a little bit.
Chemically injected watermelons in our marketplace, here's how you identify them.
I'm cutting open this watermelon here, and as you can see, when I pat the flesh, it looks pretty red. Now here's an entirely different watermelon, and look what happens when I pat the flesh. Look at the difference between these two. The one with the dark red has definitely been treated with or injected, even worse, injected with a chemical called erythrocine.
Erythrocine makes watermelons look redder, but here's the big issue. Erythrocine is a gut toxin that is made from petroleum that could damage your microbiome, and it's a bioaccumulator, meaning it can be stored in the fatty tissues of the body. It can affect a person's brain and possibly even their hormones and make them sick over time. And
That's probably good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I'll cut it down even maybe. All right, we're rolling.
So part of what he's saying there is true. Erythrocine, also known as red dye number 3, is an artificial food coloring that is added to some foods. But it's not really a toxin. I mean, in so much, I mean, everything is a toxin at high enough dose, but it doesn't have any demonstrated toxic effects at the doses that people are likely to get exposed to. It is approved by the FDA, although they have, in recent years, restricted the number of food items that they allow it in. They're just trying to limit the cumulative dosing that a person might get over their lifetime. Also, very little of it is actually absorbed. You only absorb maybe 1%, less than 1% of what you eat. Most of it passes harmlessly through your intestinal system and gets excreted in your feces. There has been plenty of research looking at, all the artificial food coloring, including this red dye. It is estimated that your lifetime risk of coming down with any negative side effect like cancer or something from red dye number 3, from a lifetime of ingestion, this is with a single dose, this is like if you've consumed this for 60 years, is 1 in 100,000, which is basically negligible, right? I mean, you have a greater chance of dying in a natural disaster. It's again, that's back down in the background noise of risk. So it's not considered to be significant. I mean, pretty much anything you eat is going to have a similar kind of risk over time. So it's considered safe in the levels that people are likely to consume. It doesn't need to be detoxified from your body. This guy is all about selling his, he says you get a free seminar on detoxification, but I bet you at the end of that free seminar on detoxification, he's selling you something. That would be my guess. Detox doesn't work. That's a snake oil fiction all unto itself. Your body does a fine job detoxifying things all the time. Products that are sold or treatments that are sold as detox have not been shown to work. They're never clear about what they're actually detoxing or how they get the toxins out. Your liver and your kidney generally do fine all by themselves. If you actually do need to be detoxified with something, you need actual medical treatment, right? Not some scammy snake oil that somebody's going to sell you at the end of some free video. So some people have noted that this dye is banned in Europe and Australia. The reason for that is that they use a different standard when determining safety. They use a harm-based approach, whereas the FDA and EPA in the United States uses a risk-based approach. What that means is if, let's say, at a super high dose, this chemical causes cancer in rats, they would consider that to be a potential harm, right? There's a biological mechanism by which it could potentially cause harm. Therefore, they would restrict it. But in the U.S., you're like, yeah, but what's the actual risk? Like, what's the risk based upon the dose that people are likely to be getting exposed to? If that risk is negligible, it doesn't matter if it's theoretically harmful when there's basically no risk. Again, I think the best analogy for that, it's like a shark in a water tank. It's potentially really harmful, but if you don't go in the tank with the shark, the risk is pretty low, right? So we shouldn't necessarily ban sharks in tanks because sharks are potentially harmful, given that the risk is really low if you just don't swim with the shark. It's the same thing. At the doses that you're getting, the risk is negligible. It's in the background. You shouldn't worry about it. And if you really want to minimize your exposure to red dye number 3 because you think that somehow that's too high a risk for you, you could do that by reading labels. You don't need some, BS snake oil detox treatment that's probably not doing anything anyway.
Alrighty, very good. That was 3. I think
That's
that was it.
Yeah,
for
3
the
and done.
week.
That's
3
my
and
quota
done.
for the week.
He's done it. And Sam, yes, watermelons are scared of needles and samurai swords.
I have a katana in my
Oh.
office.
Oh Lord, watch out! Maybe that'll be for the next
Maybe,
12-hour stream.
We definitely, if we do a 12-hour stream, we will demonstrate that katana against at least one watermelon, maybe multiple things in the melon family.
Oh my gosh, cantaloupes.
Yeah.
Those are kind of hard
everything.
though, right? What's a nice soft watermelon? I don't know.
Yeah, like the honeydew melons.
Honeydew, that's a good one. Yeah, whatever's on Fruit Ninja.
Okay. Yeah, you don't want the cantaloupes have that more of a rough rind
Right,
to them, but,
yeah.
so it'd be a little bit more challenging, but I could do it.
Nice. All right, yeah, go ahead. Ask away. Questions away. Let's see. I don't know. Let's see. I don't know if you have time to answer any of your questions, but we've been really wanting Steve's opinion on something. Oh, Kenny. My mother has been receiving bee stings to treat a suspected bee sting allergy, and she believes it lowers her risk for a lethal sting out in nature. What does Steve
you
think?
can use progressive exposure in order to treat an allergy.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just make sure, I don't know specifically if that's done for bee stings, and usually you do that with injections, if they like the purified venom. You don't do it by having bees sting you because it's hard to control the dose. So make sure a medical professional is doing that in a medically, like an approved, like science-based medical program. But the concept is legit, right? So there are different kinds of antibodies that cause allergy versus immunity. Right, so the regular kind of antibodies that we make that give us an immune reaction to something, like a good immune reaction, is IgG, whereas the IgE antibodies are what cause allergic reactions, because then they trigger the release by mast cells of histamines and other chemicals, which then cause that allergic reaction. So you could actually, if you expose somebody to tiny amounts that are too small to cause a significant allergic reaction, but it causes a little bit of an immune reaction, and then you give them a little bit of a higher dose, they get more of an immune reaction. And you keep you very strategically arrange the dosing schedule, like how much and how frequently, to maximally stimulate the IgG production. And they basically becomes blocking antibodies. So once you get to a vigorous enough IgG response, when you do get exposed to, say, a bee sting, the IgG antibodies will go in there and bind all the toxin before the IgE has a chance to have an allergic reaction. So you're basically blocking the allergic reaction. So that's legit. Those are allergy shots. We do them all the time. That's a legitimate treatment. So I don't know if what she's getting is part of like a legitimate medical allergy shot program, but if it is, it's fine. If it's just some quack who's like saying,
Some guy.
Doing it out of their backyard or something, I would be very cautious because it's very easy to get too much of a dose and to actually provoke an allergic
found a
reaction.
beehive. Stick your hand in it. It's like,
Bees kill a lot of people every year. It's
That's
like one of
true.
the greatest animal deaths in the world is bee sting allergies. So, take those little buggers seriously.
Yeah. From Peter, hey Doc, have you ever talked about royal jelly?
Same thing. I mean, it's a bee product.
Right.
So yeah, I have talked about it. I've written about bee venom therapy as well as bee product, snake oil. It is snake oil, basically. Again, the idea is it's got magical ingredients in there that'll cure whatever.
So it says, use real jelly, at least from this WebMD. Symptoms of menopause, okay, diabetes, PMS, obesity, dry eye, and hay fever. And I've always heard of hay fever.
That's just an allergic
allergy
reaction. It's an environmental.
But don't most allergies come from like trees and grass? Why would bees have any of that necessarily, right? Like from hay fever allergies?
Well, maybe I guess the idea is that there's some of that pollen in there, and you get exposed to it in small amounts.
So I guess they get flower pollen, right?
But again, there's no proven therapeutic effect from royal jelly. It's just a appeal to nature fallacy thing.
Maybe it tastes good. I don't know. I've actually had it once, I think, or like they mix it.
Royal.
It's very well. Yeah. Yes, I'm very regal. Carry an EpiPen that's true. Actually, everybody should carry an EpiPen just in case you come across somebody who needs a.
They expire after 2 years.
That's true. Yes. If you could go back and update your Great Courses series, would you change or add anything?
I haven't looked at it in a while, but probably. My communicating on scientific and skeptical topics has evolved steadily over the years. I do go back and sometimes read older articles or whatever and think, oh yeah, I'd do a better job at that now, than I did back then. So I probably would tighten it up some.
Yeah.
It was pretty, the topics were pretty fundamental. Like I had them pretty nailed down even at that time, but things get more nuanced, more subtle, more, I say things a little bit more tightly. Every time somebody like misinterprets what I say, I figure, how can I say that in such a way that they won't misinterpret it that way again, or like they won't. Sometimes it's willful misinterpretation. Like you're blocking off people who are going to try to distort what you say or misinterpret what you say to create straw men or whatever. And so you get better and better at really tightening up your rhetoric to make it bulletproof to that kind of willful misinterpretation. So that kind of evolves over time as well. But I haven't looked at it in a while, so I probably should. That'd be fun to do that and see if I think it's screaming for an update or if it's pretty good as it is.
If I microdose lead, will I become immune to lead?
No. That's so lead is your negative reaction to lead is not an allergic reaction, right? It's a toxic reaction, and lead is highly toxic, meaning at even tiny doses it can cause toxicity. The safe level of lead is basically none, but obviously we all have a little bit in us. We all have a little bit of uranium in us. Like you can't have nothing of any element in you.
Also, you want to be impervious to lead, so bullets bounce off you.
That's true. That'd be nice.
That'd be nice.
But lead's one of those things that you should just avoid at all costs.
Yeah. Maybe one last one. Is colostrum snake oil? That's like the first form of breast milk, or like the golden liquid, the liquid gold. Is that what they call it?
I mean, it depends on what kind of claims are being made for it. It's food.
Yeah. They say it's, from what I've
It might have a lot of antibodies in it.
Exactly.
You
That's
get some
what,
passive immunity, which kids need, adults don't need.
Right. I think that is what people tend to use it in adulthood now for some reason. But certainly children, I mean
kids,
my
like,
kids,
for 3 months, they don't really have much of an immune system. So they're basically getting passive antibodies through the breast milk.
Yeah.
And that's, helpful for their immunity. But then their own immune system kicks in and they're fine. But yeah, I don't know. You wouldn't necessarily need that as an adult. Plus, it's also only certain kinds of antibodies that you're going to get through that. It's not really a replacement for your immune system. So again, it kind of depends on like what are the claims being made for it. My guess would be yes. There are snake oily like claims being made for it.
Yeah, almost certainly.
Yeah, it seems like it.
All right, I think that's it for this
All right.
week. Remember, if you find anything weird or wacky or hear somebody say something on the internet,
tag us,
send it to us. You can email it to us, but you can DM us or tag us in the comments section, especially on TikTok. That's usually good. But feel free to hit us up wherever, even if it's Joe Rogan, and we've watched it a bunch of times. But feel free to send it to us. And then I guess that's it. We'll leave you this week with some music that everybody loves, and I don't care if
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. There we go.